Welcome. So nice to be reconnected with everybody again. Loving that we're getting together regularly and hearing from some great presenters and learning more to be better mentors. So this morning, let's see if we can get the PowerPoint to work. There we go. Okay, so this morning's agenda. I'm going to do some introductions of the presenters today and introduce everybody before I go ahead and turn time over to Michelle. So let's get started with that. So Michelle Knight is the Project Aware Grant Manager at the Utah State Board of Education.
Yes, ma'am.
I need help.
Here. Okay. All right. So like I said, Michelle is the Project Aware Grant Manager.
Is that nice? That's not very nice.
And her focus is on suicide prevention and mental health resources for K through 12 schools. She previously worked as a project facilitator at the University Neuropsychiatric Institute at the University of Utah Hospitals and Clinics, where she oversaw the development and implementation of the Safe UT app. She was also working on, while she was working on her MHA and MBA at Weber State University, Michelle coordinated the $3.4 million merger of the mental health resources, in which she oversaw the development of the Utah State statewide crisis line and 3-digit text line. She's a certified QPR instructor and graduated from Weber State University with a Master's of Health Administration April of 19, and then a Master of Business Administration in December 19. After Michelle, we will be hearing from Jerri Sagers, and Jerri works at the State Board of Education as well on the Safe and Healthy Schools team as a school counseling specialist. Before joining USBE, she worked in Tooele School District as a school counselor program specialist, a principal, vice principal, district behavior specialist, elementary school counselor, and she was a secretary for both the school counseling department and Tooele High School. Jerri holds a BA in psychology and an MED in educational counseling and has an administrative endorsement. Jerri will have a co-presenter today, Mr. Corby Eason. Corby is a prevention specialist at the State Board of Education. Prior to working at USBE, Corby was a high school and middle school counselor. Corby graduated from Brigham Young University with a Bachelor of Art in Psychology. He earned his master's in school counseling from the University of Phoenix and is currently completing his administrative program. One more from the waiting room. Okay, so after Corby and Jerri, we will hear from Kalee Crandall. And Kalee has been working at the State Board of Education with the Safe and Healthy School projects for about 5 years. She's been designing and developing and facilitating different courses. Currently, she's teaching strengthening career readiness for all students and has been doing that since fall of 2016. And more recently, she's been teaching building a college-going culture for students, which she started in January of this year after she had developed the course for USBE. She has her BS in health education from Utah Valley University, her MS in school counseling from Utah State University, and is now currently working on a PhD in data management from Dakota State University. So those will be our presenters today. And now we are ready for Miss Michelle to do our mindfulness moment. And I neglected to strategize with you, Michelle. Do you have slides to share, or would you just like me to share your handout that I have popped on this slide for you?
That handout is perfect. I was just going to share that one.
Okay. All right. Well, you're ready to go, and I will mute myself, but I'm here if you need me.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Amanda. You make me sound way better than I really am.
Oh, that's all lies, but you're welcome.
So good morning, everyone. This happy Thursday, almost the weekend. I am going to share just a quick self-strategy or practice for self-care and mindfulness. So this is a handout that we had created here at USBE when kind of all this chaos and pandemic started. And it's just a resource designed to support families and educators in practicing strategies for personal self-care. So as you can see, there's a lot of different things on here. Set up and maintain healthy boundaries, taking a break from watching, reading, and listening to the news, connect with those you care about using Zoom, Google Hangouts, FaceTime, Marco Polo, etc. So I gave this handout to Amanda to share with everyone, but I just wanted to really focus on the practice mindfulness strategies. Here you can see 2 links that we have included, and there's tons of them on YouTube, but mindfulness is a basic human ability to be present and aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. And it's really important right now to, whenever you bring awareness to what you're directly experiencing via your senses, or to your state of mind via your thoughts and emotions, you're actually being mindful. And in this day and age, it can be really easy to be lost in technology, lost in the news, and we need to be aware of ourselves and our surroundings. And there's a ton of growing research showing that when you train your brain to be mindful, you're actually remodeling the physical structure of your brain. And that can be done through, deep breathing, yoga, stretching, meditation, even just taking a few seconds before, when the phone rings, and just taking a second to breathe before rushing to answer it. That could be mindful, and that could really give you an inner look at yourself. And the goal of mindfulness is to wake up to the inner workings of our mental, emotional, and physical processes. So just wanted to share a few strategies. And again, Amanda, please feel free to share this out with the group and to do some of these, URLs and breathe and just be aware of your own self-care. You can't really help too many people if you yourself are not feeling up to it. So I've kept this really short, but Amanda, thank you so much for inviting me to kind of share out on self-care strategies and mindfulness. And I hope everybody takes this back with them and is able to just take a few minutes out of your day every day to really focus on yourselves.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thanks for taking time for us. I will definitely include this handout in my follow-up email today, or soon. I always overestimate when I'm going to get things out, so we'll say soon. So thank you so much. Okay, so with that, let me stop sharing so I can see everybody better. Okay, it looks like we do have Corby and Jerri with us. Awesome. So Jerri, do you want to share the PowerPoint, or Corby, what's the plan?
Yes, Amanda, I'll share our PowerPoint if that's okay. You want us to, we ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready to go. Thank you so much.
Okay, and to start with, my bio is a little different than my actual history. I just wanted to clarify a little bit. So just so I think it's important to know that when I went back to work after being a stay-at-home mom, I was a secretary at Dugway High and some elementary schools. And as I was doing that, I decided I wanted to go back to school. And so at that time, I wanted to be a school counselor because I had seen the school counselors in the schools and what they were doing. And I just thought that seemed like a great way to connect with kids. And so then I went back to school and got my master's in school and became an elementary school counselor. And from that, I had a lot of schools at that time, and it was hard because I didn't ever feel like I was there when the kids needed me. And so from there, I went on to work at the district office to be a behavior specialist and come up with behavior interventions and tried to do research-based strategies for kids. And then as time went on, I decided I wanted to maybe be an administrator. And so I went back to school again and got my administrative endorsement and worked at Twilla High, which my history told you that I was at Twilla School District, so Twilla High. And then I finished my career at Twilla School District at Middle Canyon Elementary, where I was the principal there, and absolutely loved being with the kids. But just saw another opportunity. And so that's how I ended up here where I am today. But so from there, we're going to talk about resilience in kids. And as I go along, please raise your hand or talk to me about any examples with the kids. I know that you see a lot of kids, and some of them from, yeah, and Kelly's saying that I was her boss. So when I was behavior specialist at the district, I was over the youth in custody program. And that's how Kelly and I started working together. And she became a mentor for the program. So love that work also. So anyway, after my history, I wanted you guys, as you think about the students that you're working with, about if they have the attributes of resilience or not, and where you think they are. And hopefully you'll get some ideas and strategies that you can do to help them. So please interrupt me and let's have an ongoing conversation. That's how I would like this to be today. If you have any thoughts or, like I say, examples of kids that you're working with. So because you guys have a lot of experience in this area. So I'm going to start our slideshow. And then I will share my screen. And let's see. Okay, so I don't think you're seeing the right screen. I can't see what you're seeing. Let's see. Okay, can you see that the resilience?
Yep, I can see the PowerPoint now.
Okay, good. Okay, but I'm just going to, what I want to do. The only thing is, and you guys can probably help me, is that it's coming up. Let me do something else.
Okay, and I know the multiple screens, if you've got that might be an issue.
Yeah, it's
so when
I'm gonna do another screen.
Okay. I was gonna say, and when you share, what I've discovered is you can pick the PowerPoint instead of the screen. So that might help.
Oh, you can pick the PowerPoint instead of the screen?
Yeah, so in the share menu, when it pops open, usually the first choices are your screen, and then the second set of choices are usually the individual programs or documents.
Okay, I'm gonna just try this and share it, and then I'm gonna start. I didn't have this much trouble last time, Amanda.
I was, it's just how it be at this point.
Right.
I cheated and practiced this morning. That's the only
reason I knew. Did too, but it's not working out. Of course, it's not working out how I foresaw it happening.
Oh, it's just 2020. That's my
How about that? Are you seeing it, the right one now?
Yep, we can see the presentation screen.
Okay, good. Yay! Hooray! All right, so we're going to talk about resilience in young children. So I've got quite a few definitions here. So this is the dictionary definition: the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And then I thought this was interesting too, because it's not talking about people, but I think it fits. The ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape can be referred to as elasticity. So if you think of a person being able to spring back after something happens to them or their life or whatever, to be flexible, to be pliable, I thought that that was a good way to look at it. And then also, it is a set of attributes that provides people with the strength and fortitude to confront overwhelming obstacles they are bound to face in life. So and then teachers were asked to describe resilient students. And here's some of the words that they came up with: social, optimistic, energetic, cooperative, inquisitive, attentive, helpful, punctual, and on task. Do any of you, can you think of any other words besides these? What came to your mind? Does anyone have any ideas of other words that we could add to this list?
Sometimes they're the leaders in the classroom.
Good, I like that. Any other thoughts? Okay, well, we added leaders, so that's good.
I think I think you could also say that they're creative problem solvers. And sometimes, for example, when they can't read, they find other ways to figure out how to go along with the class because they don't want to look stupid. So they are creative. They either distract the class or they make up their own words, or
right, the class clown, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they find ways to survive in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else think of anything that you've seen or that you can put a word to? Do you know what? I'm a little bit worried. My bandwidth, usually after a few minutes of me sharing and doing video, goes funny. So I am just going to take off my video, and I'll still be here talking to you, but you won't be able to see me. I just don't want to have a problem with me going down. So, okay. So why do some children acquire resilience, and how do adults miss resilience skills in students? Any thoughts about that before we go into it? Well, we'll dig deeper. Go ahead.
Sometimes students, they tend to act like they're bossy, or they know more than the grown-ups because they've had to be the grown-up in their own family. So we as parents and teachers have to look at them and go, oh, I see where you're coming from, and not be upset with them because they seem like they're trying to take over.
Absolutely. And that's a survival skill, isn't it, for them? Yes, I like that. Thank you. All right. So certain experiences that foster optimism about their educational and personal futures. And these are key experiences. So provide them with authentic evidence of academic success, their confidence. So even, you know, and we've talked about the growth mindset a lot, even if they're not the top of the class, we can look at their growth and what they're trying to do, or how they're progressing, even if it's behind, or it's just little small steps, right? And then show them that they are valued members of a community and belonging. Who do they have things in common with? Who can they be friends with? What part of their community are they a part of? Reinforce feelings that they have made a real contribution to their community, usefulness. And I think a way to generate this would be have them do service, do something for someone, and then make them feel empowered, potency. And just so that we all understood, I thought potency, what exactly does that mean here? But so I looked it up, and the power of something to influence or to make an impression. So what is their impression on people, or how do they come across? And that would be a way to foster this resilience in them. So if the opposite occurs, students who frequently have feelings of failure, alienation, uselessness, and helplessness, and these things have been reinforced through their school experiences, they will be young people who are poorly equipped to cope with adversity. And I'm sure that these are things that you guys have saw, and it's a things for you to look for and understand that maybe their resilience skills aren't quite where they need to be and that they need help. So as I was looking into resilience, I saw that there were lessons from Parkland. We can learn safety, school security, and resilience from that tragic massacre. So survivors shared inspiring stories of resilience. After the shooting, student survivors launched a national movement to bolster youth civic engagement and combat gun violence. And I can see how they would feel like they needed to do something, right? Rather than focus on the negative, try and make a change. And you see people do this all the time when they go through something or something's happened in the news or whatever. People start like fundraisers and nonprofits and all kinds of things to bring out good and to make a change. And that's an example of resilience. And here's more of what Parkland did. Drama students and their teacher, they made a children's musical, and you can see that it's a documentary on HBO. And the quote was, "They were so happy that their hope, not everything is gone. It was the one thing they had to focus on that could keep them in their happy moment and say, I'm beneficial here, I'm good in this moment." When you think of that, how traumatic that was for them, but how they are making a difference and doing positive things. So here's some children. Here's just an example. And I thought we could have a discussion here. So in looking at these children, can you tell if they have attributes of resilience? Why or why not? What do you think?
Well, they're with their peers, or I guess whomever, just friends. There's a physical connection there. They're holding hands. They're making eye-to-eye communication. They're involved with each other. They're involved with their environment.
Good. Any other thoughts about any attributes with these kids? I think what struck me with this is little kids are so accepting, aren't they? And they just have fun and they love everyone. And I think from here, we would say that they are resilient, but we don't know what their circumstances are like. And I think that's one thing to remember, is that at times they may seem resilient, but we need to look at the whole child, realize where they're coming from, what situations they're in, and then is that resilience kind of taken away or damaged as they get older and live through a lot of experiences. So let's just, I just wanted to put this up as an example that they might look happy at the moment, but they might be dealing with a lot, or that little children are very resilient and they know how to come back, and that most do. I remember in my counseling experience, there was this even one 5th grade girl that came from horrific situation, and she was so positive and just a joy to be around. You would have never known what she was dealing with. And I kept track of her as long as I could. I didn't see the resilience go away. Hopefully it stayed with her entire life. I don't know what she's turned into. And then also when for 1 year, I was a teacher in a skill building class, and it was in the junior high, and it was the students that were just really struggling, and honestly the kids that the teachers didn't want in their classroom at that time. And I made friends with this. I mean, I did with most of them, but this one really stood out, and we really got along, this one young man. And he had been from post to pillar just his whole life, all over the place. And just had experienced a lot, and he was fun, he was funny, everyone wanted to be around him. And it probably was a coping skill in his survival, but he was surviving. And as he went on, he really struggled academically. And I don't know if he was successful later in his life, but he sure had the personality to be and was very likable. Any other thoughts of people that you guys know and experiences that you've had or that you've seen, what's happened to them in their future? Okay. So I've got a video here that I want you guys to see. And hopefully we can make it work. And then while you're watching it, please think of any things that resonate with you, and we'll discuss it after. Thoughts that really stand out to you.
How many of you have ever been through a traumatic experience and thought, how am I ever going to get through this? Maybe you were trying to overcome an addiction or beat an illness or get through a divorce, or maybe you're feeling that way right now. As the founder of Unlikely Heroes, an anti-human trafficking organization that rescues and restores children from sex slavery all over the world, I find myself intrigued with the tools that people have developed to overcome trauma, because I want to do everything I possibly can to help the kids in our care overcome theirs. And so far, we've recovered more than 400 children from slavery, opened 7 restoration homes all over the world, and developed a therapeutic treatment model that's actually helping our kids to come out on the other side of their trauma, experiencing success and having hope for their futures. And what I was shocked to find is that there's actually a group of kids who had been rescued out of some of the most horrific circumstances any human has ever been forced to endure. More than 2,000 unwanted sexual experiences in a year. And yet these kids were coming out of our homes and graduating stronger, more resilient, more successful than even other kids who had grown up in safe, loving, and stable home environments. So I found myself asking a really powerful question, which is, what are these resilient kids doing differently to have positive outcomes in the face of trauma? And what I thought at first was that resilience was something these kids were born with, like a personality trait. But what I actually have found is that resilience can be modeled, it can be developed, it can be practiced, and it can be implemented into our lives, even during the most difficult circumstances that we find ourselves in, so that we can have better outcomes and create lives that we actually want to live. So that leads me to a question. What are these resilient kids doing differently? And how do we apply their hard-earned strategies into our lives so that we can achieve the same results? Well, I was in the Philippines in one of the worst red light districts in the world. And it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I went into a brothel, and there were 30 young girls and women sitting on these benches that had name tags on with numbers on them. And immediately, as soon as I walked in, the girls started jumping up and down saying, "Pick me, pick me." And our team was ushered into a side room where the manager handed us a menu with some of the most gruesome sex acts on the menu. And she said, "Go out there and pick any girl you'd like based off of her number, and then bring her back in here." And we said, "No, thank you. We're just here to sing karaoke, and we want to go in the main room." So we went into the main room where they assigned a man who could speak English to watch over us, and a very young girl who was only about 16 years old, who said she'd been in the brothel for less than a month. And I started talking to this young girl, And as I did, she was flipping through a Japanese dictionary on the table so that she could talk to this man, a John, who'd been raping her for the last several days. And as I sat and I spoke with her, I knew exactly why she was trying to learn Japanese to talk to this man, because she decided that her only way out of this most horrific circumstance was actually going to be for this man to marry her. And a few moments later, she actually said, "Will you come on stage with me to sing karaoke?" So I went up there to support her. And as soon as she got on stage and started to sing, she stepped forward. And I looked into her eyes and I saw something that I will never forget. And it's something that I never see in brothels. And it was hope. And as she sang, I saw something beyond the hope. I saw something that's unmistakable, even in the midst of a brothel. And that was resilience. And I started to find myself getting emotional and I started to feel tears coming up, but I choked them back down because I knew the last thing that this girl needed was my tears. I'm sure she'd already cried plenty of them. What she needed was my strength. You see, this girl was a resilient one. She decided that she was going to do whatever she possibly could to overcome the situation that she found herself in. And this is the most core thread that I have seen through our children who practice resilience, is that they have a core belief that no matter what, I will be okay. And here's how we apply that to our own lives. We start to believe at the core of who we are that no matter what, I will be okay. I remember sitting with one of the girls who'd been rescued at our homes, and she's now living in freedom. And she told me of her story of how she had to run away from her very violent traffickers. And she had to run for several days without food, without shelter, and no one was helping her. And finally, a woman that she stopped to talk to, she said, "Will you please help me?" And I found myself at this moment of the story starting to relax. And I thought, finally, someone's going to help her. This woman is going to be the person that brings her into freedom. But instead, the woman just gave her a cup of water and told her to be quiet and sent her on her way. And there was a part of me that I started to think, how could she not have done more? How could she not have given her food or clothing or made sure that she got to safety? But then this resilient child went on to explain that because this woman gave her a cup of water, that she had the hope to keep running and to keep going, and so that she could actually find herself a way into freedom. You see, this girl who practices resilience has a core value strategy that no matter what, she will be okay. And when this woman gave her the cup of water, it validated her core belief and gave her the hope to keep going. And that brings me to the second strategy that these resilient kids have applied in their lives, is that adding on to the core value belief that no matter what, I will be okay, they understand that even though life is not the way that I want it to be, I will still be okay. And this right here is such an important key, because these kids are practicing the skill of acceptance. Here's how this looks practically. Many of the children in our homes were actually trafficked by their own family members, sometimes even their own mothers. And you'll hear the kids in our homes saying, "I want to go home," or "I want to visit my family," which are totally normal feelings for any child to have. But see, the resilient ones understand home is not safe, and they allow themselves the freedom to let go of their pain and their past trauma. And they start to believe pictures for a future that is safe, that doesn't include their family members who trafficked them. They're practicing acceptance. And what I've noticed is that the kids who actually struggle with resilience often get stuck in their past, oftentimes romanticizing it, thinking about a family picture that never even actually took place, and forgetting the pain that they endured. We actually train the parent-like guardians in our homes to take the skill of resilience and to model it for our children so that they can have more successful outcomes. So if you're a parent who's helping a child go through a difficult circumstance, let's say your family's going through a divorce, here's how it looks to model resilience. First, you wait for the right moment and then you ask questions. But your goal here is not to get information, it's actually to create connection. So you would say, I know this is really difficult for you. Now you have 2 homes you have to live in. You have to leave your school uniform in one house and remember where you kept your school project. What's one thing that I could do in the midst of all this change that would actually help to make this easier on you? Now, let me explain what you're doing in this moment. First of all, you're understanding where this child's at. Change is hard for all of us. It doesn't matter how old we are. But then you're actually reinforcing the idea of resilience, that there are some things that no matter how much you want to, even as an adult, you cannot change. You cannot change the fact that your family's going through a divorce. But when you ask the child, what's one thing that I could do to make this better for you? You're actually letting the child know that even though I wish that I could change these other things and I can't, I still care about you and your emotions in the midst of this change. And you're letting the child know that they're valuable to you. So let's say you're an adult and you're going through a difficult circumstance. Maybe a doctor has said that you have to make dietary changes in your life because of a health diagnosis. Here's how you would practice resilience. Instead of thinking about all the foods that you can no longer eat and getting stuck in that picture of things that you've lost, you actually intentionally look forward into the future and start to think about what it would be like to make healthier foods or to make healthier choices. And you start to dream about that new picture that you have that could even be broader and higher than you'd originally hoped. What would your life look like if you were really living a healthier lifestyle? How would you feel? What would it feel like to wake up in the morning knowing that you were living this lifestyle that you're more proud of than you even were before? You see, we have to understand that resilience is not about ignoring what's wrong. It's actually about accepting what's wrong, letting go of the things that we cannot change, and allowing ourselves to develop a posture to start dreaming of a future that we'd actually want to live. Practicing resilience is a skill that we can all apply to our lives that will allow for better outcomes. And it starts by aligning ourselves with the truth that no matter what, I will be okay.
Okay, so before I go on with any characteristics, and I want to know what resonated with you guys about what she talked about. Any thoughts?
One thing that stood out to me, Jerri, was the romanticizing their past to forget their pain. That's something I hadn't heard before and didn't realize that's why they kind of cling on to that going home or that idea of going home.
Yeah, exactly. That surprised me too. Any other thoughts?
I was just thinking that sometimes there's not anything that we can do to really change the total outcome for these kids, but we can always give hope. There's things that we can do just to give that hope, and hope is everything sometimes.
Right. That's how they can keep going, right? Is if they have hope. Absolutely. Any other thoughts? Okay, we'll move on. And I want to kind of rush through this because I want to make sure Corby has plenty of time. So characteristics of resilience: they demonstrate a genuine interest in school. They're able to solve problems, which we talked about a little bit. They're assertive and capable of showing initiative, empathetic towards others, responsible, sets and attains realistic goals, maintains a sense of purpose and a positive outlook on life, and can act independently. I thought that was interesting, that they don't need people around them all the time. Then signs of trouble: slipping school performance, sleep problems, renewed separation anxiety, irritability, outbursts or tantrums, hopelessness, change in eating habits, anger, isolation, withdrawal, and loss of friends. And this can be any type. Like, we've heard of these things, whether it's depression or a change in any type of a change that we see in their normal behavior, then it's a red flag, isn't it? Okay, so this is just a guide for parents and teachers, educators. So there's 10 tips. Make sure to make connections. Help your child by having them help others, which we've talked about doing service. Have a daily routine. Let them take breaks. Teach them self-care, just like what Michelle was doing today, talking to us about mindfulness or other ways for them, things that they enjoy, hobby. Have goals, help them have goals and move towards them. A positive self-view, help them not to have negative self-talk. Keep things in perspective and maintain a hopeful outlook, which is what we were talking about also. Look for opportunities for self-discovery and accept change. Okay, now Corby is up. And then Corby, just tell me when you want me to move slides around.
Okay, can everyone hear me well?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Awesome. So right now, as the previous video talked about, that most of our kids that have experienced some type of trauma, and those are the kids that we need to connect with and make sure that that we identify their resiliency skills. So because so often our kids that experience any of these types of traumatic experiences, they are seeing the kids that we see the most or deemed the trouble kid or the at-risk kids. But with the understanding that our kids that are quote unquote labeled the at-risk kids are some of our most resilient kids. And so as an adult, we must be able to identify the things that they are doing well versus focusing on things that they are not doing well. And so it's key that once we identify one of these traumatic experiences, making sure that we focus on the strength and continue building on those strengths, because we know the fact that the kid that is coming to school that may have experienced one of these traumatic experiences, that's a way of being resilient. Next slide, please. So I love this quote, how long the night the dawn will break. And so no matter how much traumatic experience or what going on with the kid life, the fact that they showing up in your schools or showing up in your office, they are performing some type of resiliency skill. And so as an adult, we must be that person to help them navigate and help them provide that hope during their journey. Because we all know that, yes, some of the things that are happening outside of the school is out of our control. But one thing that we can control is the environment at the school and our relationship with that student. Next slide, please. Yes, so again, as an adult, we must take an asset-based approach, and that means focus on the strength. As I mentioned earlier, we must be able to identify what the kids are doing well, because our kids that need the most support are the ones that been told time after time that they are not good enough or they are doing this wrong. And so again, being able to focus on what they're doing well and giving them that confidence, and then we can focus on some areas of improvement. And again, being able to frame improvement or the lack of in a positive framework instead of saying, I can't do this, or you know better, you should be doing that. It's being able to positively frame the area of improvement. Because we all know that anytime we receive constructive criticism or we get in, we have a defense style of being use a defense mechanism instead of viewing it as continual improvement. And that's the same way that we have to work with our students. We want to treat them like we want to be treated when we have to improve in certain areas in our profession. Next slide. So the goal is, again, to build relationships and connection. And by doing that, as an adult, when we wanted to support kids, we got to treat them with concern in order to build trust. And what I mean by that is generally caring about them to build that trust. Because we all know with our most vulnerable students, trust is one thing that that adults have failed them at time after time, that they don't trust adults because many adults in their lives have failed them and have increased the mistrust. And also with that, as we work on ways to build trust, we have to be able to recognize the underlying issue of what's going on. And that's why it's so important that we understand the warning signs and the risk factors of human trafficking or child sexual abuse or any form of abuse or substance abuse or suicide ideation. Is being able to recognize the pain, be able to recognize, not just focus on the smoke, but really focus on the fire of what is causing all the underlying issue, all the outgoing explicit behavior. And also we need to respond to the need rather than respond to the crisis. At times we focus on the outward behavior versus the bigger complex issue. And again, some of the time that is out of our control as an adult working in school, but it still doesn't stop us from connecting the youth to people in the community or problem solving with a family member to help them resolve the underlying issue. And for the students, again, they must work with adults that genuinely care about them, that they can trust, and that is really concerned about them. And know that their number one priority as an adult is being that champion for the kid. Because we all know every kid need a champion, need that person that gonna be their second. Then also for kids, being able to be able to express pain without causing a conflict or out misbehaving or causing a disruption in the classroom, and being able to seek adults and peers when they need it the most, when they are having a crisis moment and they know who are their seconds, who can they support, who they support systems, who they can rely on in the school, but also outside at home. Next slide. Yes, and so as an adult, we have to be an advocate. It's important as an advocate that we look at the environment at the school, be able to remove those barriers. Because so often, think about my experience overcoming many odds in my life, and I had one of the things that gave me that hope to keep pressing forward throughout many adversity was I always had adult that moved the barriers that I couldn't control. That adult had the social capital or had the network or had the skills or had the authority to move some of the barriers that was in my way in the school setting, but also was in my way in my community setting. And also his goal is to create a positive condition, be able to have that one time of day, the 5 hours at school can be a positive experience for our kids that need our support, we need to tap into and maximize their resiliency skills. Is be able to create that positive interaction, be able to create that positive environment so they can maximize their potential so they can be the best version of themselves. Next slide. And also too, as adults, we have to be a problem solver. I would say our kids that are experiencing the most adverse experiences, they need a problem solver to help them problem solve and be able to support them and help them consult and be a mentor. Because so often I can remember throughout my life when I had challenging things in my community, but also in school, I always had my coach that was my counselor. Always ran things by him. I always consult with him when I knew I had to make a decision that can impact my life in many ways. That I problem solve with him. I role play with him when I had a conflict with a peer or a conflict with a teacher. And so that was a great a great resource to have. But also, I use him to problem solve some things that I couldn't control. I use him to problem solve some things that I tried my best as a kid to advocate for myself, and I knew that I need to get adult involved. And he was my champion. He advocated for me in ways that I couldn't, based off his relationship with other teachers or his relationship with the administration when I needed things, or his relationship with our community liaison to help connect me with resources that the school couldn't provide. And so our kids that need help with resiliency is really we need help with having someone to help us problem solve with complex issues that we don't have the capacities to do so. Next slide. And also, one of the biggest things, I'm a big fan of mindfulness and being able to ground myself, but also be able to articulate how I'm feeling at times when I am having a difficulty solving a problem or solving a conflict. And so being able to recognize what my body is telling me. Being an athlete, that was very, very easy for me to understand when I needed water or when I need a timeout because I was tired. But as an athlete, I had to be able to duplicate that in the classroom and understand when I was frustrated with a math problem or frustrated with a peer or frustrated with a teacher on a certain situation. And being able to understand how my body is telling me what I'm feeling. And so we all know when we are happy, we have a glow or a warm feeling within our heart. Or when we worry, we sweat a little more, or we keep pacing, or we do some things, or when we feel guilty. I mean, some people bite their nails, or they feel anxious, or relax. We kind of just slouch back in our seat and just feel at peace. And so it's important as an adult that we help our kids and also help ourselves understanding what our body is telling us and what type of fuel do we need to rejuvenate our body. And sometimes that's a mindful activity, and sometimes it's just a need to get some negative emotion out by shooting hoops or playing baseball or exercising. So it's just important that we can be able to do a heat check on our body to be able to understand our emotion and help us regulate those during crisis time and the times of needs. Next slide. Next slide.
That's it, Corby.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And so all I say just to close up is just be their second, be the person that they can come to, that they can talk to, but also be able to have those skills and work with school counselors, admin, or community liaison to get the support that is needed and be able to help the kid navigate through the difficulties and have a optimistic approach and and not falling in the pitfalls of having a deficit mindset towards a kid. Yep, and that's all I have.
Okay, Amanda, thanks for letting us present today. Youth in custody mentors have a special place in my heart, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with them. So thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate both of you. I know you're both very busy specialists, so it's very appreciated that you take time out to present to the mentors. And I didn't know about your YIC connection until today, so that's even better to know about you, Miss Jerri. So now I know another person I can ask questions when I'm doing things with the mentors. So thank you both so much, and you guys have a great day. You're welcome to stay and listen to Kalee, or I imagine you probably have other things you need to do, but you're welcome either way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. With that, sorry, I'm just trying to keep an eye on that there waiting room. We are ready to hear from Kalee Crandall, and I am just scrolling our contact list. Yep, Kalee's here. So Kalee, you're welcome to start sharing your PowerPoint or turn on your video, whatever's gonna work for you. And I'll turn mine off and mute, but I'm here if you need me.
Okay, great. Do I need to record on my end or anything?
No, I am recording for all of us so that I can post it on the mentor page.
Okay, great. Okay.
You have to ask though, is that one of those cool backgrounds or is this really your face?
So funny enough, my husband, he teaches for UVU, and he was tired of the kids coming in and bothering him while he was presenting. And so he put up these sound barriers. And so when he's in here with the door closed, you can't hear anything. So kind of cool.
That's really cool. That is.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for making time for us this morning, Kalee.
Yeah. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this. Can you see my screen now?
Yes. It's the, what do you call it? The slide with, or the screen that lets you see the notes.
Okay.
So
let's see here. I need to just switch screens then.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me get this going.
No worries. It's been one of those days where multiple screens are not necessarily being our friends.
Okay, let's see. And does everyone already know who I am? Do I need to introduce myself?
I did the introductions all at the beginning. I've learned if I don't do them right at the beginning, I forget. And then I'm like, oh, I was totally going to introduce that other presenter.
Okay, let's see if this one works. How's that?
It's still showing us both slides, with the notes. What I told Jerri this morning is on the share, the first set is usually your screens, and then the second set of share items is usually, there you go.
Is that it?
Yep, now we can see it normally.
Okay, great. Okay, well then let's just go ahead and get started. It's great to be here with you today. I know that Amanda, she works hard to provide you with as much professional development opportunities as possible. And so today, what I'm going to really focus on is introducing you to the two courses that I teach for the Utah State Board of Education. And that is building a college-going culture for all students and strengthening career readiness for all students. And these courses are components 1 and 3 of the CCR certificate for school counselors. And the CCR certificate is actually required by all school counselors for licensure, as well as to meet program review standards. So it actually consists of 3 components. And so these are 1 and 3. Component 2 is designed specifically for school counselors to reinforce program goals. And so we'll not be really talking about that course today. However, this components 1 and 3 that we will be talking about, they are Canvas courses and they offer 3 credits through SUU. And so we've had a lot of people in the past who have taken these courses for professional development that aren't necessarily school counselors. Even though a lot of the material is kind of specific for school counselors, they've been able to adapt some of the assignments. And so that's been nice. And while I'm going through this presentation, if there are any questions or anything, feel free to stop me. I will save some time at the end for questions as well. but I'm just going to kind of keep going through this. And then, like I said, just stop me if we need to discuss something in more depth. So I actually read a statistic this morning that talked about on the state's website that showed that 46% of children in foster care and youth involved in juvenile justice services, only 46% earn a high school diploma. And what was even more shocking to me was that only 3% graduate college with a bachelor's degree. And so I thought that this was so interesting. And it said on the website that it's through collaborated efforts between agencies that we can make a difference and ensure educational success in these students' lives. And so again, while this information is tailored to school counselors, I really feel that through collaborative efforts from school counselors and from youth mentors and from, we've had administrators take the course, it's through collaborative efforts from multiple agencies that we really can reach all students. So today, I hope as we go over this information, you'll be able to see how it can motivate your students by giving them purpose and direction in their lives. And maybe you'll even consider taking these courses for professional development in an upcoming semester. So the next time that these courses will open will be, the next course will start in January, and it runs about 16 weeks. And so it kind of follows the traditional college schedule. I love the analogy from Randall Ridd, and I want you guys to imagine this for a second. So imagine for a moment you are on a lifeboat on the ocean with nothing but rolling waves in every direction as far as the eye can see. The boat is equipped with oars, but which direction should you row? Now, imagine you've caught a glimpse of land. Now you know the direction you must go. Does seeing land give you both motivation and purpose? People who don't maintain a clear sense of purpose are drifters. Once we can help our students identify their strengths and interests and then link those to educational and career opportunities, we can provide them with that motivation, purpose, and direction. We'll go to the next slide. So we're first going to go over building a college-going culture for all students. And we'll just kind of talk about some of the information that we cover in that class. And so hopefully not only will you be introduced to it, but you'll also actually learn even some resources and some different things that you can use with the people that you work with right now. So it is the first component of the CCR certificate. And the main focus in this course is on post-secondary education opportunities and getting kids excited about aligning their goals and next step planning. So the course was actually embedded into school counseling education programs ever since 2015. So usually those who enroll in this class are school counselors who have been in the profession or who graduated before 2015, or for those who are out of state, from out-of-state school counseling programs. USBE actually began offering this course earlier this year after collaborating with higher education institutions in Utah and aligning curriculum. And so again, it's worth 3 credits from SUU, and it includes current research articles regarding indicators for college readiness, next step transition planning, cultural competency and equity, principles of college-going cultures, barriers to college access, college enrollment and completion, national and state data. And school counselors also participate in a knowledge building learning community, which is really kind of fun. Basically what that means is they'll create a question for an exam, and then they'll have somebody answer that question, and then they'll give feedback on that question. So by the end, not only are they prepared for the exams, but they've also gotten a deeper understanding of some of the concepts that we discuss in this class. So that's a brief overview. So according to a recent issue brief from USHE, Utah's population will become increasingly diverse in the coming decades. And so this is why we really start out this course talking about cultural responsiveness and equity literacy. So by 2065, the percentage of minorities in Utah who are ages 18 to 35, they'll nearly double. So there's already a post-secondary education enrollment and completion gap between minority populations and the white population at colleges and universities in Utah. But if nothing is done systemically to address and disrupt these barriers, then as the state's demographic changes, this enrollment and completion gap will also continue to increase. And that's why this module is so important to understand. It provides a depth of information on increasing equity literacy and promoting cultural responsiveness. Some of the specific populations that we talk about are different ethnic groups, first-generation college students, students with disabilities, students who are refugees and immigrants, and students who identify as LGBTQ. And it was actually interesting, as I was preparing for this presentation, I actually wondered if we should add other populations, such as, youth in custody, youth in care, foster students. I'm wondering if there's research and information available in that area. And so maybe, Amanda, I can reach out to you. Maybe you'll have something, because that 3% really stood out to me as I was researching that. But each institution in Utah, they have their own website for promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion. So basically any college that you start researching, they'll have a website just devoted to this exact information that we cover in this module. So the next is increasing career readiness through college participation. So research has shown that 50% of dropouts are found in just 15% of the nation's schools, which is mind-blowing to me. There are individual, social, and economic consequences of dropping out. These and other efforts have awakened the nation to its dropout challenge. And so the Grad Nation campaign was officially launched in 2010, and it's committed to reaching 90% high school graduation rate. And so they are making improvements. There's been a lot of improvements since 2010 when this was first implemented, but there's still a ways to go. So not only are there issues getting students to graduate high school, but there's also challenges getting those who do graduate high school to actually complete post-secondary training. So it's not just enough to get students to get a GED or to graduate high school, or even to get them into college, but really there's this main question of how do we get students to actually complete college? Georgetown University did a study that showed that 1.5 million students who are in the top half of their high school class, out of those, 500,000 did not complete post-secondary certificate or college degree. And it said this loss of 500,000 students equates to around 1/3 of the top performing students, or 15 to 17% of the high school class. So the cumulative effects of this loss are immense. 5 million lost youth every decade, which is nearly half of the projected 11 million shortfall of college educated workers needed in the US over the next 10 years. So again, even students who go to college, a lot of them aren't completing college. And so in this module, we also discuss data that shows the highest paying jobs in America, and that those jobs require both a high level of experience and education. Georgetown University reported that on virtually every measure of economic well-being and career attainment, from personal earnings to job satisfaction, young college graduates are outperforming their peers with less education. So we really talk about that cost of not going to college. And I think when we say not going to college, that doesn't have to necessarily mean a 4-year university. We also talk about different certificates and different training programs as well. And so, yeah, just getting post-secondary training really. Module 3 is indicators for college readiness. So we really asked the question, what does it mean to be college ready? And research suggests that for students to be college ready, they need a combination of foundational academic content knowledge, cognitive strategies, learning skills and dispositions such as goal setting, persistence, time management, and study skills, as well as specialized content knowledge that's applicable to their intended path after graduation. So here you'll see a picture of USHE and USBE's recommended specific high school curriculum. And they came out and said that they feel that if students complete this high school curriculum and complete it with mastery, meaning that they get above a B- in these courses, that will demonstrate that they're ready for college. And so you can see 4 credits of English, 2 credits of world language, 4 credits of math, 3 credits of social science, and 3 credits of lab-based science. So these are a little bit more, I guess you could, a step above what you would need to just graduate from high school. And that's why they're saying that if students can pass these courses, then it demonstrates that they're ready for college. Another interesting find is that Algebra 2 is a course that's particularly related to enrollment and success in college. So one study found that students who take a math class just 1 step above Algebra 2 double the odds that they will earn a bachelor's degree, which I think is just so interesting. But there are also other indicators for readiness, such as entrance exams, such as ACT scores, SAT scores, GPAs, and other non-academic factors. Another thing that's interesting, since COVID started, there's actually a lot of colleges that are going to college entrance exams. They're making them optional. And so they're saying, you know, students, we're going to look at and we're going to weigh heavier on whether students, their GPA, or maybe some of their service opportunities. And so we talk a little bit about that there's maybe some other better indicators than just what a student gets on an ACT or SAT score. And so although standardized assessments have been viewed as the best way to compare students from diverse backgrounds, these tests are actually now criticized as being biased, and a small but growing number of colleges have made these testing optional for applicants. And people just say that because of that, the standardized tests fail to identify talented applicants who can succeed in higher education if given the chance. And so I really like that more and more schools are going towards that process. Okay, so module 4, we talk about next step transition planning. And really this is important because we help students connect their courses and learning with what they want to do after high school. And that's really an essential step to achieving true readiness. School counselors and those working with youth in general should work with them in transitioning from one educational program to another, from one school to another, or from school to work, and also support students in next step planning. So for example, when transitioning from high school to post-secondary training, research shows that alignment and collaboration can increase student success in both reaching college and career readiness and persisting in and completing college. So further research shows that many students who have not learned the right material before entering post-secondary education and must take even one remedial course in college, they don't persist to the second year. So more than 70% of these students will never earn a college credential, and those who do require far more time to reach the finish line. So again, I think that next step transition planning is so important, because we're saying, you know, not only do we need to help students transition from schools, but even from high school to college. And if we can help them transition more effectively, then they'll be more successful. So let's see here. So there's 8 modules in each courses. So we'll just briefly skim over these last 4 modules really quick. So module 5 is creating a school-wide college-going culture. And really a college-going culture in the schools helps build the expectation of post-secondary education for all students, and not just the best students. So it supports students in achieving their goals, and the key ingredient in creating a college-going culture is dedicated educators. So we talk more about how you can create a school-wide college-going culture. Module 6 is focused on helping students make post-secondary training choices. And we talk about the different options for post-secondary training. So again, it's not just a 4-year bachelor's degree. That's not the only training option that's available for students. And I know in the past, that's been a huge push from others, saying that, you know, they think the only training that students can get after they graduate high school is to go to college and get a bachelor's degree, when in fact, there's other opportunities that they can even make more money than they could get with maybe, say, a general bachelor's degree. So let's see. It's important that students understand the different types of colleges and universities, and that's really important. So for example, what is the difference between a public college, a private college, a for-profit college? Public colleges are those that are funded by the state or government, and they generally have they're generally larger than private schools and have larger class sizes. So as you're helping your students prepare for these post-secondary training options, if you know they don't do well in a large classroom with a lot of other students, then maybe a public college isn't the best option. They also have private colleges, which is often operates as an educational nonprofit organization, and it does not receive funding from a state government. The thing with private schools, however, though, is that they may be more costly since they're not subsidized by government. And then finally, let's see. And then there's for-profit colleges, and the for-profit colleges refer to higher educational institutions that are operated by private profit-seeking businesses. We also discussed the barriers to college access, and that's what we talk about in Module 7. So the main barriers that we discuss are cost, motivation, and grades, and family responsibilities. And we also cover some ways to overcome these barriers, such as sources for financial aid and scholarships. We have oh gosh, we have tons of resources that students can use to actually look at what are some funding options available to them. And I think one of the hardest things is that people feel like they can't afford college, and a lot of it is just a lack of knowledge of where to go to get that help, to get that financial aid and get that assistance. And so we cover that in quite a bit of depth in that module 7. And then module 8, the last module of this course, is developing skills for success in post-secondary training. So here we discuss college enrollment and completion trends in Utah and how to increase completion rates, including the 15 to finish campaign. The 15 to finish campaign shows students how taking 15 credits a semester can help them earn an associate's degree in 2 years and a bachelor's degree in 4 years. And it really can help keep them on track so that they can graduate in the good amount of time. The thing I probably love the most about this course is how there's so much data that's specific to Utah. And one of the assignments that school counselors do in this course is they actually gather data that represents their students, whether it's from their district or from their school or from their geographical area, and they create a presentation. And then they're actually required to present this to some population. It can be to their students, it can be to their faculty, it can be to their community council, but they actually create this PowerPoint using relevant data and then share the information. And so this was a great example. I love this. This was a student who just barely submitted this a couple weeks ago, and they gave me permission to kind of show it to you. But I loved their analogy of planting seeds for tomorrow. And so they shared this presentation with their students. And this is a great quote: "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow." I love that. So the first thing they talked about in their presentation is why a post-high school education. And they used some resources from some of those, some articles from the course. Again, so let's see, over 99% of job growth in the recovery went to workers with more than a high school education. That was from that Georgetown University study we went over a little bit. Again, families who have adults who have post-high education have higher rates of help, both physical and mental, and also better retirement plans. So again, really trying to show those students why that post-secondary education is important. They talked about in here the weeds that take over, in other words, those barriers. And we talked a little bit about those. Here they talk about environment, paying, and sustainability. They talked about some quick gardening tips, ways to overcome barriers. So seek support in high school. They have a couple of their resources for ways to pay right here. And they also have ask for help. And that's a huge one. They cover the different types of gardens. So there's the 4-year universities, there's 2-year colleges, there's trade and technical colleges. So they talked about those. Here was some of the data that they actually used from one of the modules. And so it shows right here from their school where the enrollments went. And so for the 2-year enrollments, you can see that for this, there was probably a school that was in a Salt Lake school district, because most of their students went to the University of Utah or Salt Lake Community College. You'll see as if you were to do this assignment that depending on your location, this data would change drastically. So most of them in like Utah County, most of them go to Utah Valley University. But it's really interesting to be able to actually look at this data and see where the students are going. And let's see, reasons to start. It says what motivates us to garden. Many students want a better life for themselves and their families, and having a plan after high school to gain a higher paying job will help achieve that dream and goal. So I love that this presentation just really went back to the why. Like, why do students want to get post-secondary education? And I feel like as you are working with your students, having them really answer those why questions will really help motivate them as well. Again, kind of helping them see if they can see that island while they're out floating in the ocean. Hopefully that will give them some motivation and direction. Okay, we are flying through this. I'll just kind of pause right there before we talk about the next course. Were there any questions on the first component, building a college-going culture? Hopefully you're still awake. we'll kind of keep going. And if you think of any, we can have some share out at the end. Okay, so this is component 3 of the CCR certificate. We've been actually teaching this class since fall of 2016, and it's worth 3 college credits from SUU. So where that first component really focused on the college aspect of college and career readiness, now this third course focuses more heavily on career readiness. I just wanted to read a couple feedback that some students shared after taking this course. And so I think this gives you the best idea of what this course is about. One student said, I think the resources we have been introduced to in this class have opened our eyes to so much more than we ever knew to look for. One of the most valuable things I will take from this class is the resources on apprenticeships, stackable credentials, and high demand, high wage jobs in Utah. I just had a discussion today about a high demand, high wage job with a student who isn't sure what he or she wants to do as a career. I talked to them about dental hygiene and how it's a high demand job, and that with a 4-year bachelor's degree, they can make more than I do with a master's degree. I loved that with this class, I knew enough to explain the process, the pay, and the timeline, which is so much more than I understood before taking this class. Another student said, I think the biggest thing that I'm learning in this class is that I need to be equipped with specific information to help students. In the past, I have been given lots of general information. I have shared tools with students that they would need to learn more about careers if they are interested in them. However, after taking this class, I feel more empowered to learn specific information about the job market and share it with students. So I think that gives you a really good idea of what this class covers and what you would get out of taking this course. Again, it's those specific resources and specific tools that you can really use to help with career planning with your students. So with this course, there is a career action plan, and that's like the big assignment. So throughout the course, there's small little pieces of assignments, and then at the very end, the students take these small pieces of assignment and they just compile them to make a final career action plan assignment. And while the goal is to actually help with school counseling goals, a lot of these assignments can be tailored to fit your situation, or it could also open up opportunities to collaborate with your school counselor. And so I've listed a couple of people who have taken this course before. The administrator of Central Utah Academy, I know that he recently took it and was able to adapt a lot of assignments to fit his specific purposes. We've had work-based learning coordinators take it, administrators take the course, as well as elementary school counselors who have taken the course. And so let's see, so really school counselors, they don't work in silos, and you guys are a huge influencer in students' lives. And so by collaborating with the school counselor, we can all work together to help students. Okay, so we'll just kind of briefly go through this course like we did the last one. Hopefully you'll find some things interesting. This first module is an introduction to career development. So we talked earlier about what was college readiness. Now, what is career readiness? And so according to Meandering Toward Graduation, career readiness is a new expectation that reflects the reality and demands students will face. It requires significant change to school structures, culture, and instruction to engage students in relevant work that prepares them for post-secondary study aligned with their interests. So really, career readiness is kind of a combination of academic skills. You can see these puzzle pieces up here on the top. Academic skills are the measure that many consider as college readiness. So that's the academic piece. Employability skills, which many of these employability skills are also necessary for college readiness. And so there's a little overlap here, but those are those soft skills that everyone needs to be successful in a career. And also technical skills. So in order to actually be considered ready to enter a career, an individual must also possess at least some level of job-specific knowledge and skills. Okay, this is like the best article in probably both courses. I think it really opens up people's eyes when they read this article. So it says over and over again, educators and policymakers mouth the mantra that all kids need to be ready for college and careers, but there remains a giant gulf between the rhetoric and the reality of today's high school graduates. Among recent graduates, fewer than 1 in 10 have taken a foundational set of courses they'd need to be both college and career ready, and almost half completed neither a college prep nor a career prep course sequence. So this is super interesting. So you can see this picture right here, and this is what this article determines would tell a student that they were college and career ready. So you can see up here at the top, that's kind of that career, the academic piece, right? So it's almost directly aligned to the YIC recommendations that says that a student's considered to be college ready. And then also this article takes it a step further though and says that in order to be career ready, students should take at least 3 credits in CTE courses in the same field. So for example, if they're interested in like welding, they should take 3 courses in welding, as well as the college ready curriculum. And there's also a mastery piece that says they need to pass these classes with at least a B- or higher. And so this is always mind-blowing to school counselors because they think, gosh, I've never realized the importance of having students be exposed to some of these CTE courses or these technical courses, especially for those students who are interested in going into that field. There's also, this article brings up a really interesting point that a lot of times I think we focus on getting students to pass high school, to graduate high school. And even school counselors will do this a lot, where they will have students come in and they'll say, what do I need to take to graduate? And so they'll give them the easiest classes, just enough, they can get enough credits and they can graduate. And then they go to college and they find that they're not ready and they haven't taken courses that were rigorous enough to prepare them for life after high school, and they really struggle. And so as school counselors read this article, I think it really opens up their eyes to see, hey, when I have students come in and they're saying they want to go to a 4-year university, but that they want to take all these super easy classes, maybe we should help them understand that no, it's not just about credit accumulation. The focus should really be on life after graduation and preparing them to be successful after they graduate and be successful while they're in college. And so I think this article, like I said, it always opens up everyone's eyes that read it, just like, oh, okay, I see now how I can be better at helping students be college and career ready. So we also cover diverse populations. So again, not only how do we help our top performing students be career ready, but how do we help all students become ready? So what are we doing for our students with special needs to help them with future careers? And what about those from different ethnic backgrounds? So for example, did you know that African Americans tend to be overrepresented in low earning majors, and that even though Hispanics represent 17% of the total population, they have really low concentrations of degree holders in growing STEM fields, such as, let's see, healthcare. There was only 6% of Hispanics who graduated in healthcare, 11% in engineering, and only 9% in computer science. So in this module, we really talk about how can we encourage these other diverse populations to consider higher paying career options. So module 3 is career literacy. So career literacy is defined as the basic knowledge or skills that students need to navigate the future work environment. So it's comprised of career awareness and exploration, which is covered in more depth in module 5, job searching, which is covered in module 6, interview skills, and an understanding of post-high school opportunities, which is covered in module 4. So we will spend the next few minutes talking about these and the other modules in just a little bit more detail. So module 4, so this is kind of what these, the students who I told you in the first of the course were talking about, some of these that really made an impact on them. This module discusses the different career development programs that are offered to students, specifically the CTE Pathways program, which was developed to help Utah students on the path to college and beyond. These CTE pathways are formally introduced to students in 7th grade in the course College and Career Awareness. And the school or district or local high school employs a work-based learning coordinator to assist individual teachers or an entire school in learning more about the world of work. And having secondary school students identify a desired CTE pathway is a strategy used to help students design course schedules that will help prepare them for their desired career. So again, it's that CTE piece of that meandering towards graduation article we talked about, really trying to have them figure out some of their interests and strengths, and then taking a couple classes in a row that can really help strengthen their career readiness. And this is the piece of college and career readiness that's often missing. So success at every step, we talk about that, and that actually is an article that describes 23 programs that support youth on the path to college and beyond. We talk about industry-driven pathways, which are developed to meet industry needs, and they ensure that education, training, and workforce systems meet the needs of the labor market by preparing students and workers with the skills and credentials they need for jobs and careers. And then we talk about these stackable credentials and certificates. So you can see this image here on the right side. It kind of shows you some of those different stackable credentials. So the first one is the vertical stacking. And it's a general way of stacking with one credential combined with another to progress toward a higher credential. So you would start with a high school diploma, then you'd get your associates, then you'd get your bachelor's, and again, you're vertically stacking these credentials. But that's not the only way that you can do it. They have horizontal stacking, which is a type of stacking where students earn a variety of credentials in related fields that, when taken collectively, prepare them for a specific type of job. So for the example here, they have a certificate in CompTIA or an IT. Then they put that with a certificate in Microsoft Certified Solutions Expert, and also a Cisco network certificate. And then by the end, they can become an IT systems admin. So you can see that they're just kind of stacking those horizontally, those certificates. Then the final one is this value added stacking. And this pertains to adding an area of expertise to an existing degree in order to be better prepared for a specific type of job. So for example, maybe you have an MBA, and then you can combine that with a certificate in biotechnology. And then by the end, you could become a biotechnology manager. So those are just some different ways that you can stack those credentials. And then the last thing is an apprenticeship. And so an apprenticeship is basically a unique, flexible training system that combines job-related technical instruction with on-the-job learning experience. And by the end of apprenticeships, participants receive an industry-issued, nationally recognized credential that certifies that they're occupational proficient. So some of the apprenticeship programs that we have in Utah, they include operating engineers, wireman, telecommunications installer technician. They have construction apprenticeships. So all of those are some great opportunities for students to get this training, on-the-job training, for a fraction of the cost that they would pay for some of these other training options. And by the end, they actually have that, that technical experience as well as a certificate. So anyway, there's just a couple of the requirements. You do have to be 18. You do have to have a high school diploma or GED. But again, you can, if your students are interested in some of those areas, they can start preparing for that. But I think it's up to us to be aware of what is out there and what's available. Okay, Module 5, Keys to Success. So I'm not sure if you've heard of Keys to Success. In school counseling, these types of websites are all really, they're used a lot. We used to have Utah Futures, and so this Keys to Success is now kind of taking the place of Utah Futures. And it's the Utah's new statewide college and career readiness platform, and it's administered by the Governor's Office of Economic Development through the Talent Ready Utah initiative. The top priority of the Keys to Success website is to motivate students to unlock their future and connect with scholarships, internships, and opportunities. So as students are matched with these opportunities within their identified career interests, then they can gain points for rewards, and they're trying to make it as like a fun system that students can actually get really excited about this college and career readiness process. And in fact, as I was looking through the Keys to Success website, I was trying it out on my daughter, and she was so excited to see that some of her interests actually matched with careers. Something that I've personally never really been able to help her with in the past, because her interests are so diverse and different than mine. And so she will go from like, I really like working with animals, and I really like I really like sports, and I want to put those two together. And I'm like, I have no idea how to put sports and animals together, but the website actually was able to help her figure out some of her interests and some possible careers. And so I will say that the Keys to Success website, just from my limited exposure to it, has actually been really impressive. So Talent Ready Utah is the other one that we talk about in Module 6. as well as the Department of Workforce Service website. So the Talent Ready Utah, it seeks to optimize efforts made by education and industry partnerships working collectively to build a greater workforce throughout the state of Utah while providing students with increased career and education opportunities. And so we go to the Talent Ready website in the course and we have students just kind of look around at some of the different resources and data points. But most of the time we spend on this Department of Workforce Service website. The Department of Workforce Services website is an example. It discusses employment trends, county unemployment, and employment snapshots. And there is an assignment in this module where school counselors actually work with students to identify the 5-star occupations in their area of interest. And I just wanted to, let's see if I can show you this really quick, how neat this website is. Let's see. Okay, I hope that you can see this. So basically we could go to any area and you can click on it.
Sorry,
can you see it?
It's still on your PowerPoint. You have to change the share.
Ooh, let's see if I dare do that. New share. Let's try that.
There we go.
Okay. So yeah, this website is so neat. So what I did was you can just click on any area, and then within that area, you can look at some of these different occupations. And right away, you can see like the median salary, the star rating, the education that's required, if you need a license. And then this is even cooler, like there's job openings that you can actually click on and you can actually see real postings that are available right away. And so if students are looking for, okay, what are some of the good jobs in my area that are open right now? And that's what's going to help them understand what they want to kind of go into. They could come right here. We'll just look at one of these. So for an art director, you can see over here, it talks about the description, the outlook, employment projections, the wages. Anyway, this website has so much information that, yeah, I would highly recommend just looking over that. Let's see if I can go back now to my PowerPoint.
I can see the PowerPoint, just so you know.
Okay, is it the right PowerPoint?
It's showing module 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, but without notes, right?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, so anyway, that Department of Workforce Services is a great resource. And again, school counselors, they'll work one-on-one with a student and actually go through some processes to help them. Okay, let's first identify some of your interests. Okay, now let's see what jobs are available and what is the job outlook? Because again, if I left it up to my daughter just on her own right now, who's in 6th grade, she would say, I'm going to be a professional athlete, like most middle school kids say. And so you could come on this website and say, let's see how many openings there are for professional athletes right now. And soon you can see that there's probably not any on that website. So anyway, that's a huge resource. And I would, yeah, highly recommend that you look through that. Okay, so module 7 is the high wage, high demand industries and jobs in Utah. So there's 5 of these high wage, high demand industries that we cover. In particular, it focuses on construction, engineering, healthcare, information technology, and computer science and manufacturing. So there's also an assignment in this module where students in the course actually interview a manager in one of these occupations to gather information, such as post-secondary training required for levels of employment. So again, those stackable credentials. A lot of people will interview someone in the healthcare system, like a manager at IHC has been huge, where people have interviewed a lot because that is a high wage, high demand job in Utah. And they'll talk about those stackable credentials and they'll say, okay, well, a lot of times people will come in and before they're a nurse, they're an aide, and then they're a CNA, and then then they become a nurse, and then they get these more trainings. And so they'll actually list these stackable credentials and the process that students will take to get to the positions they want. They also ask information about tuition reimbursement, which is such great information to have because there are a lot of industries, especially if they're in high demand, where they will actually pay students to go to school to get this education. And so that's also really informative. They talk about, or they interview and ask about the areas of shortage in the organization, and also some of the benefits for working in that specific industry or in that specific organization. And so this assignment is usually one that participants actually dread the most. However, it always seems like by the end, it's the one that's the most worthwhile. And the people who take this course are like, I learned so much that I didn't know before, and I'm so excited to share this information with my students. And so this is a great module and with a great assignment, and there's always really positive feedback by the end. One of the most important or interesting finds that I've seen after reading through some of these interviews is how much, so at the end of the assignment, there is the option for the student in the course to actually ask just 3 other additional facts about the company. And almost every time, whoever they're interviewing will say, tell the students that we can train them on whatever they needed to be trained to work in this organization, but we cannot train them on how to show up on time, or how to work hard, or how to communicate, or how to problem solve. And so almost every time talking to these managers of these organizations, they're always referring to the need for students to have better employability skills, which is actually a great transition to the last module that we cover in the course, because it goes right into employability skills. So, I mean, training and technical skills, they're always going to be the foundation for career success. But employers today, they want to hire people that have the ability to cope with change, to have clear communication, to adapt quickly to new environments. They want team players. These are all skills that they're a lot harder to teach than some of the other technical skills. And so this is why employability skills are becoming more important than ever before. There is a great video on YouTube that I would highly recommend watching. It's called Millennials in the Workplace by Simon Sinek. And we actually watched this video in the course, but I think it's about a 20-minute video. So it's a little lengthy, but it's really interesting. And it does a great job explaining the importance of employability skills for the millennial population. And so that's a great video. And so that's kind of how we wrap up that module or that course for strengthening career readiness. And after counselors have taken component 1 and they have all that knowledge on college readiness, and then they take component 3 and they have all this information on career readiness, they get that certificate and can say that they are a college and career readiness certified school counselor. So I know that we're a little early, so I don't know if you have any questions, but I would love to answer any questions that you might have now at this point.
So Kalee,
do you feel like, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say a comment came in the chat, and I'm not sure if we can answer it. Maybe some of the other mentors or mentor coordinators could chime in. But it says our YIC students are often disqualified from career readiness programs because they're unable to pass the tests needed to enter the program, or because they're not passing current classes. It says, what can be done to help this population in our schools? So are there entrance exams for the career readiness paths?
Can you hear me still?
Yes, I can. Okay.
So as far as like this, I'm not as familiar with the youth and care programs as I wish I was. And so I'm not sure if do they take a regular high school curriculum?
Yeah, typically the kids are in traditional school settings and participating, but what is different or unique about the students is sometimes the gap in credits. You know, these kids tend to get moved from one district to another, and then that kind of leads to a gap in credits, or because of circumstances going on in the home environment, or before they were moved from the home environment, they're just behind. So I was just wondering if you had any suggestions on how to help them that way specifically.
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, there have been several other school counselors and individuals who have taken the course that have very similar concerns. And so I've gotten that a lot. It's like, hey, look, I'm just trying to get my kids to graduate high school. And so I can't even like figure out any of these other things. We just want them to graduate high school. And I kind of think that goes back to that meandering towards graduation piece where you want them to graduate high school for sure. However, that needs to be the means to an end. And so I think if you can really try to help them see, yeah, it's great, we can graduate high school, but then what? And so, for example, I think becoming more aware of what options are available for everyone, like including apprenticeships, right? I think for those students, if you're like, well, what do you like to do? Doing some career assessments, and you're like, oh, I didn't know, but you actually like construction, or now you like working with your hands, you like working with machines. Once you turn 18, you can take this apprenticeship that I know about, and you can actually become certified, and they'll even pay you to do all of this stuff, because while you're apprenticeship, you get paid, and it's not as much as if you were to just get hired. But then once you finish that apprenticeship, you do get hired, and you're making all this money. And yeah, so high school graduation, you have to have that as a component of those apprenticeships. But I think by trying to help them see past high school, and you want to support a family, and here's some ways that you can do that, having that information, I think, can really help with some of those things. The CTE Pathways program, for example, is a little bit different, because basically, yeah, what that's saying is they're taking these elective classes and things while they're trying to graduate. And really all that's doing is just trying to help them get some more exposure to some of these CTE courses. And so again, I think that if the key would be to try to get them to look past high school graduation as the end goal. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's just kind of what I've seen.
I think it helps. What stood out to me is if they get their high school diploma, that they could move toward those apprenticeships. And, maybe they weren't able to take the classes in high school that necessarily tied into those, but it gives them hope, that even if they can't do the classes in high school, that once they've graduated and they're 18, they can contact those trades and get into an apprenticeship program. So, the barrier might be the credits and the exams in high school, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a barrier forever. It's just a temporary barrier. So that's what I would suggest the mentors try to share with the students.
And I see a question, how do you find apprenticeships throughout the state? So we have listed in the course about 5 or 6 just apprenticeship programs, but they're pretty easy to actually just Google. If you just Google apprenticeships in Utah, you can find quite a few of them just by Googling it.
And I think there's still like a trades like association or some kind of, for one of the school counseling conferences a few years ago, they came and had a booth, and they had lots of literature that they could give to teachers to give to students, if I remember correctly. So yeah, like Kalee said, Google, and if you can find that association, they would be a good link. So we still have, just short of 10 minutes.
Association in Utah.
Yeah.
So I think that's who we might have been talking about, but yeah, there are a few other ones as well.
So it's called the Trade Association of Utah.
I think it was there was one that was the General Contractors Association of Utah that was at the conference.
Oh, okay. That might
pretty sure.
I just
there could have been other ones too, but yeah, I remember that same thing.
It was probably that they had good giveaways, to be honest.
Yeah, that's exactly what I remember.
Okay, well, we still have about 8 minutes. If anybody else has any questions, you're welcome to unmute yourselves or pop it in the chat. And just while I have a minute, thank you so much, Kalee. This has been good for me. I'm a parent of teenagers, so not only professionally but personally. And there was a couple that weren't able to access the website, so will we be able to share out, was it which website was that? That was the workforce services.
Yeah, let me see if I can just drop that in the chat really quick.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, and you can play around with that website. There's a lot of other great resources there as well. I want to drop the Simon Sinek video in there as well. And if you get some time, I really think you would enjoy watching that one as well.
Excellent. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing both of those. I'm going to cheat and copy and paste them so that I can include them in the follow-up email for folks that weren't able to participate with us today, if that's okay.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. Okay, well, if we don't have any other questions this morning, I think we can end a few minutes early. I appreciate everybody making time this morning to get together and hear about resiliency as well as post-secondary options. I know this is stuff that the mentors are working with students on regularly. I hope you all learned something new today. And just remember, everybody who presented today works for the Board of Ed. And if you need any follow-up, you're welcome to reach out to me or hop on our website. All of their contact information's there. And the Safe and Healthy Schools team actually has headshots, so you'll be able to remember who you talked to today, even if you can't remember a name. Their pictures are there, so that's helpful. But thank you so much, and I think we'll go ahead and end early. And everybody have a great afternoon.